So a lot of people ask us, how can I get started training fencing, and what are good ways to train? Well, there's a lot of different options out there. Some require more resources than others, and some require other people to assist you in. At the bottom tier of what you can do that is still useful, you can do solo training on the air. So getting something even as simple as a dowel rod that approximates the length of the weapon you want to train with, one or two-handed, using that to practice techniques in the air to just kind of feel how this thing would move. You can go up and get a synthetic weapon for a lot cheaper than a steel one and feel how that moves. So solo training on the air is useful.
You can solo train footwork too.
Yeah, solo training footwork is actually very useful.
Gotta be a little careful because practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent.
Yeah, practice.
So if you're doing footwork wrong by yourself too much,
we always
anyway,
suggest, we always suggest that you have someone who can guide you through this. If that is like a YouTube video, that's, it's doable. We would always recommend you go find someone in person to train with.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, you can, go off of videos. We always suggest you film yourself when you're practicing so you can compare yourself to what your reference is and just to kind of see. So we have solo training that is useful but should not be your only method of training because it's only going to get you good at fighting the air. Above solo training, we have PEL training on an inanimate target, either a post or a mask on something or a dummy. Those are useful, or like even like it's the same as like boxing, training on a boxing bag, a heavy bag. It helps you with striking. It helps you feel what it feels like to make contact with something and feel that in your hands. It helps you with blade alignment, the same with a heavy bag as fist alignment. It helps you with measuring distance. And so there's a lot of useful things you can take from PEL work, but again, there is no feedback from another person. So one of the best ways that you can practice is to drill with a partner. There are a ton of drills out there that are useful to get your footwork going well, to get your blade work up to speed, all kinds of things. And today we are going to show you some useful partner drills. So for solo footwork drills, we have a couple of options. The first one I like to do is this keeping the distance drill. So if I'm here, I'm going to be the person in charge. Matt has to respond to my footwork. Now, if you don't know footwork, you can check some of my other videos. I have a footwork tutorial that I did a long time ago, but we're going to use some basic footwork here. So I'll start off, if I advance, Matt has to retreat to keep the distance.
And I'm not retreating as much as I can. I'm trying to keep it the same.
Keep it the same. So this is about control. If I go back, he goes forward. So we can do this, and he has to keep up with me. Or if he's in charge, I have to keep up with him. And I have to make sure that I'm doing this just like that. You can also transition this into non-linear footwork. So if I'm here and I go this way, he has to counter. Same thing here. But the idea is that you keep the distance one way or the other. So we have this non-linear thing where I'm circling. Maybe I'm going this way, he has to keep up with it. Whatever. You can just go around the room and then you can say switch, and I have to do it for Matt.
You can change up the direction randomly on them. And
you can, and you're working with your partner. You're not trying to bulldoze them, but you're not letting them.
You want to challenge them.
Yeah, you want to challenge them. So there's a fine line, right? You don't want to just like right here. You don't want to do this. Matt's not learning anything, and it's not helping him.
I mean, you can do that for a few steps.
You're a few
it's
steps.
Kind of fun to
just like pushing your partner in the wall doesn't help. But you also don't want to do this. He's learning nothing. So we want to do. So he has to keep up and pay attention. That's how drilling, I can practice footwork alone all day long. And if I have a partner here and I'm not utilizing them and making them work, there's no difference. I want him to challenge me. The next
partner might notice.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if you notice something. I'm going to try something and see if you notice me doing it. Okay.
Good me. Twisted your front foot.
Common thing people do with fencing. This is for bows.
Yeah.
Fencing footwork, you always want to have your foot. It can hurt your knee too. Anyway,
yeah.
So you have a partner, they will notice things like, oh, you're leaning too much, you're bouncing too much.
Having an outside eye.
Your steps are too big.
Having an outside eye is always good because they can be, constructive criticism. Now, if you don't have an outside eye, I always suggest filming yourself and you can correct yourself.
Yeah.
Right,
one thing I would actually say maybe don't do, or I would be careful about doing, is taking video of yourself doing stuff and going to like a forum or something and like asking.
Yeah, don't ask the internet.
Because you will get so many different answers, you will just get so confused.
First off, the internet's mean. Second off, the internet has too many different opinions. So Too much input is, there's a fine line between too much and not enough input.
You can share it with us.
Like,
people
someone
you trust, maybe do that, but don't just go to some Facebook group and be like, what do you think?
What do you think, guys? Too much.
100 comments of people saying it's great, it sucks,
Right.
whatever.
Moving on.
Okay.
The next drill I really like is called the glove game. I've done a video on this before, but we're going to go over it again. This teaches footwork and some attacking. So the idea here is I am going to try and get Matt in the chest with my glove, but I have some rules. I am only allowed to, back a little bit, I am only allowed to take 2 advances and 1 lunge, which looks like this. Step, step, lunge. That's all I get. Matt can take as many retreats as he wants to.
Now I only get 1 step, so if I think I'm being clever, try and attack me again. Ha ha ha, you didn't get me. Oh, I can only do 1 step and 1 lunge.
2 steps and 1 lunge.
Right.
So try to get to me. There's no way he was going to make that.
So I went back too far.
The same thing applies as the previous one. You need to make sure you're controlling the distance. The ideal thing to do, go slowly at me, ready? So I want him to just do that so that I can get him back. You do not have to complete your full step, step lunge. I can do up to 2 steps in 1 lunge. But let's say this happens. Let's say Matt really overextends to try and get me. That's perfectly acceptable because he wasn't able to get back in time. This teaches a couple things. Not only does it teach distance, it teaches timing. And it also teaches balance. You need to make sure that you're making a good attack, one that might hit, because this won't get him, right? So I want to commit to the attack, but not so much so that if he moves, I'm unable to recover in time. So this is what it would look like. Ready? 2 steps, 1 lunge. Ready? You start.
Okay.
Oh!
Yeah, it was my nose.
Sorry, buddy. So
what happened there is I was trying to limit how far back I went to make it so that he would just miss me so that I could immediately come back.
I came from a hierarchy, so gloves still can hurt.
Yeah, but they're not really good at it.
This is one you can do without gear. Just be careful.
Yeah.
Matt got bumped in the nose.
Yeah,
it happens, but
kind of funny.
that's why we have these padded gloves. These actually, it's funny. These do have padding in them.
Yeah.
So, all right, but yeah, that's how it goes. So step, step, lunge, and then so let's do a couple more just for fun.
Okay, you start.
I start. I'm gonna wall. I got backed into a wall.
Normally you would have a little more.
Yeah. So make sure your surroundings are. But anyway, the glove game, a fairly low cost and safe game.
Does it have to be a glove?
It doesn't have to be. I've used pool noodles. That's a fun one.
Without hitting.
Yeah, you just touch.
Yeah.
I kind of like the glove because it's soft. And it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't like it. Doesn't, you can get whacked with this. And it's not too big.
I guess if you were wearing full mask and gear, you could do it. You could do the glove game with a sword.
You could do it with a sword. Yeah, you could change things a little bit. You're not allowed to parry though. That's part of the glove game. It's a distance only thing.
That's true. I'm trying.
All right, so we are going to do some partner drills with swords. So when we're talking about using either this or synthetic, and you're doing partner drills where you're going to make contact, it is super important that you do it in full gear for a couple of reasons. I see a lot of videos on the internet where people are doing things with just a mask on, or no mask, no gloves, and that can only lead to either serious injury, which I don't usually see,
or inaccurate movements,
compromised practice.
Right.
Because if you are too worried about doing the technique correctly, if you're too worried about not hurting your partner to do the technique correctly, then you're going to give them a compromised training.
Right.
So
we can show them by contrast.
Yes.
So let's put our masks.
Yeah. So we're going to do something called the iron triangle. We're going to start slow and get fast.
Okay, I'll be the coach.
You'll be the coach.
I'll prompt
Okay.
for the cuts.
Prompt for the cuts.
I'm doing this switch wrong. It's supposed to switch under, not over.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
I got it. And I was able to do that. I was practicing to do it. So this specific drill, I'm going to tell you how it works in a second here. This is the iron triangle. It trains the most useful parries in saber, which are, in Olympic saber at least, which are parry of 3, parry of 4, and parry of 5. Sometimes parry of what we call saber 6.
Those are good parries.
They're good parries in any weapon.
Cutting.
For cutting. I mean, we do use a lot of hanging stuff in historical saber.
These are really
good parries.
fundamental.
But we could go through that. Now here's the contrast, right? If I don't have a mask and he doesn't have a mask. All right, here we go.
Yeah. Okay. I just hesitated because I wasn't sure he had the parry.
Yeah.
So it's already,
It's not choreographed.
And sometimes when you're doing that drill, as the coach, you start to feel like maybe they're just aiming for your sword.
Yeah.
That's not good. So what you do is you randomly just don't parry. And
Don't parry.
And sometimes people will stop and not hit your head. And you can only allow them the chance to do that if you have a mask on.
The point of partner drilling is that it is unchoreographed. There's a sequence.
Sure,
there might be something that you're trying to do, but my goal is to hit him. Every time I do these parries, we're gonna tone it up a little bit. So now we're gonna do iron triangle. So we have those. So the goal is this: we have those parries. We have 3, 4, and 5 that I'm gonna be parrying. He's gonna be attacking those 3 targets. My thing, I'm going to parry and immediately riposte. I want to hit his head every time. My goal is to hit his head. So that's what I'm gonna go for.
Oh, okay. You said riposte, right?
I said riposte.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
parry.
just Italian for answer, I think.
Something like that.
French.
Yeah, there's
It
some,
means answer, and you're just answering back after the parry.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, see? He was able, I didn't get parried.
You came into a weird parry like this.
Yeah, and he got me. And that taught me that I did it wrong. If we weren't doing this in gear, he wouldn't be okay to hit me, and I wouldn't be okay to go this fast. So, this is the iron triangle, like we said before. Important to do it in full gear. You want to have a jacket, gloves, helmet. I know that's expensive. If you can't afford that, you can get padded weapons. They make them. Padded weapons. Some of them are as cheap as 20 bucks on Amazon for a pair. They're okay, they're serviceable for this, but I will always suggest in that situation that you get a mask.
I was just gonna say, if you can't afford a bunch of fancy HEMA gear, if you are gonna practice with weapons, just get the cheapest fencing mask you can find, at a minimum.
This one here from Purple Heart is
Even
absolute
if it's just
force.
a white fencing
Yeah,
mask.
but this one was only 60 bucks.
Right. You might be able to
65.
find them for a little cheaper.
You can find them used. So here's what
They
I would
last a
say.
while.
If you're using steel, full gear. The end.
Yes.
If you're using wood, full gear.
That's hard.
For wood and steel, synthetic, anything that is a hard polymer, wood, or steel, you need full gear. If you want to get foam weapons, you need a mask. Because you don't know if that's going to hit an eye, all kinds of other stuff. You need a mask. If you were in my school and I was teaching you and we were doing foam fighting, you would have a mask on. It's not worth it.
Even if it's not hard, your eyes are there.
Yeah, and
Stuff
so
can scratch your
I know
eyes.
some people might say something along the lines of like, well, people who do LARP, they don't use masks, but the head isn't a target. Your goal is to hit the head, get head protection. And you can get this fairly cheap. If you want to be able to partner drill with somebody, you can go on Amazon and you can find foam swords. I think they sell a set of 2 of them that are pretty decent. I do my kids' classes with those. 20 bucks. Go and find a basic fencing mask somewhere between $30 and $65. There's a couple of different places you can get them from. That gear, you can do some really serious partner drilling with it. Another way we can drill is to incorporate footwork and with posts. So what's going to happen here is we're going to start off with a simple step-step lunge. We're getting distance and timing. I'm here, I have my guard up. When I drop my guard, Matt is going to take step-step lunge and attack my head. Good. He's got to make sure that he's in the correct distance. So he wants to hit with the top part of the sword, and he wants to be in distance enough that that works. So ready? Good.
One step. I need to be further away.
Yeah, you need to further away. The camera makes it hard. Good. All right, so we're going to upgrade this. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to attack that after he hits my head. So what this is simulating, I want him to get, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can do this with a parry or you can do this with a hit. The first way is like this. Matt goes to hit my head. When he makes contact, I attack, he retreats, parries, and riposts again. Just like that. So,
That time I only recovered, I didn't retreat.
you don't have to fully retreat. You could do it one way. You could require a retreat or you could require a recover. Either one works. So I'm here. Matt takes step lunge. He recovers, parry, riposts. I can also do this where I make parry on the first one. I'm here. I drop, parry, post, just like that.
I didn't
Again,
catch the parry.
it's fine, and miss.
Yeah.
So we're here, drop, parry, post. And you can make this elaborate as you want. We can make as many parry and posts as we want to here. So he can just have to keep responding. We can also do something like this. I'm not necessarily
I feel like I was
going to
leaning a
go.
little bit.
I'm not necessarily going to go to your head.
Okay.
Yeah, so it gets trickier. And now Matt has to respond to me. All right, ready?
I barely caught
I
that.
know. So what we're able to do is do that same drill we did before, the iron triangle, but now we're incorporating footwork, defensive maneuvers, and all kinds of other
It can
things.
help you catch bad habits. Like I even just in that brief time, I caught myself gripping too hard. And if you grip too hard and you go for a side parry over here, if you don't loosen your fingers,
You can't get low.
You can't
So
get that low.
he came high. Had I cut a little lower, I would have gotten it. So this is a great way to work with your partner. And like I said, it doesn't have to be with really expensive swords and really expensive gear. You can go the cheaper route. You can go on Amazon. You can find yourself some safe foam swords. There's a ton out there. You can get a fencing mask, and you can do it like that. I would recommend getting lacrosse gloves if you're going to go that route. It never hurts to have hand protection. It doesn't feel good to get hit in the hands.
No,
So
it can
I'd
hurt for
say
weeks.
at a bare minimum, if you're going to do partner drilling, you need a fencing mask. If you're going to not have anything else, you need a foam sword. One that is safe to both hit and stab with. And I would recommend highly getting either gloves like this or lacrosse gloves that you can find on there too. And I'll put some links in the description to give you guys some more stuff. But this is an idea of how to start off doing partner drilling. Anything to add?
no, just that the addition of protective gear for full drilling is useful because you can really do the movements the right way and you don't have to worry about subtly avoiding the person because you don't want to hit them.
Yes.
Because people naturally don't
Yeah.
want to hurt each other.
When you're doing this is one of the reasons that I kind of I wouldn't say I'm not necessarily hard, but I'm always critical of people who base their entire experience on I've talked to people who do kenjutsu specifically, and generally they won't use protective gear, whereas kendo does. Now kendo is a sport, but it's a full contact sport. There are rules, and then you've got kenjutsu, which in my experience, what I've seen is it is more historically, supposedly more historically based work, but with
it's
no
supposed
gear.
to represent less formalized sword use, like I don't know if brutal is the word, but
Yeah, but it's not
more-
a sport. It's supposed to be more historically accurate to
Yes.
that weapon. However, if you're not doing it with contact and with gear, you are compromising your training. So we
Well,
all
by the way, I don't know about you, but even then, I still think kenjutsu's neat. I think it's,
No, it's cool.
It's very cool.
I'm
but
not saying it's not
if
cool.
you're gonna say something about how a sword actually works and you haven't at least drilled that full speed,
But there are
I mean,
people out there who practice kenjutsu with gear on, and I think that is
sounds cool.
that is the level to which you can start to claim a level of proficiency with swordsmanship. Like there's like we said, there's fencing, there's HEMA, there's kendo. They all have different things. Olympic fencing is a sport, so is kendo. HEMA is kind of a loose term we apply to any historical swordsmanship that isn't sport-based. There are people who do kenjutsu in the same way, where they gear up and fight, but any practice done without full gear will always be compromised because you're not willing to fully execute the technique on your opponent.
Now, if you want to start doing some drills with someone and you don't have protective gear yet and you go slow, that's cool.
Like we said, there is
But
definitely room
You
for
need to
both.
understand that if you don't move up to
It's a stratified thing, right? You start, and I still solo drill, and I still do pel work. It's all part of my routine. So solo drilling has its place for footwork and for getting to know the weapon. Pel work has its place for measuring distance, figuring out blade alignment, and feeling what it feels like to strike somebody, and something you can do on your own. Solo practice is very important. It's the same as like a heavy bag, right? Or practicing shadow boxing. It has its place, but it can't be the entirety of your training if you intend to be a swordsman. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this or any of our other content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support allows us to keep creating shorts, fencing videos, and our major projects. When you support the team on Patreon, you get access to behind-the-scenes content, discounts on merch, opportunities to game the crew, and so much more.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the fun stuff Sellsword Arts is doing. You can even ring the bell if you really feel like it. You can also join the community Discord and chat with the crew and other cool people with similar interests. And if you don't agree with something that I've said in one of these videos, you can always fill out the duel request form and challenge me to a duel so you can prove your point. You can find our Patreon and Discord link in the description. Additional links are in our bio. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.